Imagine that you're 95 years old and you're about to leave this world, and here comes your last breath. And before you take that last breath, you're given a wonderful, beautiful gift to go back in time and have a conversation with your current self, your present self. What would you say to yourself, Kate?
That's a challenging one. I would say, take your time. That this all doesn't have to happen at once. And, like that quote I had said before, you can have it all, but not all at once. It's okay if some things take longer. You need to take care of yourself and your community along the journey. So I would say, thank you for showing up. And it's okay to go along the timing that is healthy for you to continue to be part of the collective work.
How do you define success, Kate?
Well, it's changed, I think, this year. I think for me, my personal success is really about, at the end of each day or each week, feeling that I've made some step forward in making a difference on some of these things that really matter to me. And that I have been there for my kids, and that I feel proud of how I've been able to conduct myself in my personal life and in my local community. And so it's not all on work for me as an individual or as a leader now. And, I think that's a positive development for me. And collectively, a measure of success would be that we see health inequity measures go down, and that we have more objectively addressed some of this stuff, and that we have a more inclusive and representative governance system that has us all feeling that we belong.
And for yourself, do you think there is room for you to become a better leader?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, I continue to try to learn and grow. I've been part of the NHS England's Institute for Change leaders over the last few weeks, and trying to continue that lifelong learning and growth, and find ways to keep sharing my skills and commitments, and also I think learning for me that might not always mean titles that reflect huge managerial authority or that sort of thing. It might, but it doesn't have to. And for me, that's been liberating to know that leadership happens in all kinds of different spaces, and that if your skill is more appropriately used in a different role, that can be still quite leaderful, and a way to keep advancing this work and thinking about the work collectively. I think it's much less lonely thinking about it that way. And so I think having that healthy, realistic expectation about what those next steps might be has been really healthy and good for me. And like many people during the pandemic, just having an opportunity to step back and recalibrate. We've all done it, I think, and it's nice to have the opportunity to act on it and to be seen for doing the work, and so invited in, because really that's where I am now at the point in my career where I'm sort of waiting to see who asks me to work with them, and that's been really great, because then I know I'm going to have that sense of belonging right off the bat, that people want me to be there and to share the voice that I've been sharing publicly, to help them meet their goals. So that makes me feel really good about the path that I'm on.
Awesome. What is the vision you see for yourself?
I want to keep helping communities advance their own goals and needs, to break down barriers to health equity for them. They know what they need, and I want to help them keep that on the radar and get their voices heard at the table. And so that's really what my intention is to keep doing. I'm very interested in doing that at the pan-Canadian level right now. I'm also involved in a number of different international groups, particularly around social prescribing and the power of communities and their self-determination in healthcare and in connected care between health and social care. So I want to keep advancing this work that puts community at the forefront and really taps that capacity that's gone untapped and underappreciated for a long time. So I'm hoping there will be many years of opportunity to do that, at the Canadian level, and here at the local level where I'm on the board of health in Toronto, and in my own neighborhood, to keep doing that work and to see the value in our informal systems of work.
Now, you are an introvert, Kate.
Yes.
What are some tips you can offer to other leaders or aspiring leaders who are introverts as well?
Take time to nourish your inner life. It's another of those symptoms of overwork, that you might end up with an impoverished inner life that's only focused on that work and your family obligations, for example. And that's what happened with me. And so taking the time to reconnect with arts and culture, music, outdoors, all that kind of thing to help you to flourish as part of the human community is well worth your time. And again, it's, if you're talking about time prioritization and lots of competing pressures, making space for that has been really important for me in recognizing my personality and my need to kind of recharge that way. And being on Zoom meetings and virtually is hard in a whole different way. And so, recognizing that and being okay with that has been an important learning for me. And so I'm trying to do that more now, to spend a little bit more time nurturing a richer and more well-rounded inner life. And it's been really rewarding. So I hope that other introverts can take some solace from that. Being alone during COVID or being distanced, it's been hard to not be with our communities. And it's been hard to kind of feel like you have to force some of those connections. So I'm also just looking forward to the time when we can, hug our friends and sit together without having to say anything. That would be really nice.
Right. And now, having worked with a lot of leaders in your own career, watching other leaders, what are some behaviors or traits that you admire in some of the best leaders, and maybe some that you think would lead to negative outcomes?
I wasn't really the type of person to have heroes until I started working in community health. And I saw the work of lots of people working in community health centers, for example, and there are many other local community organizations doing similar kinds of work. And the thing that they did really well was they rolled up their sleeves and they tried to figure out what to do, and they just tried to get it done. They met the needs of the community. They didn't worry too much about bureaucracy or resources or existing rules or anything. They just did what they could with what they had. Demonstrated success almost all of the time, and then used that success and that implementation experience to advocate for the kinds of further supports and resources that they needed. And so that kind of bottom-up policy building, that bottom-up advocacy is so inspiring for me. And so I'm really inspired by those people who do that, who roll up their sleeves and get something done, even knowing that they face constraints, because we're always going to face some constraints. And so that willingness to make the change, to take the action is really important and really inspiring. So that's, I think, the thing that really keeps me going, and that willingness to put themselves out there, even when things are not finished, like I said. And so one of my personal mottos is that, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be awesome. That means finding joy in the work and really giving it your all and trying your best with what you've got. And I tell that to my kids all the time. That their effort is worth a lot, and their learning and their grit and determination. And so those are all really important ways of showing other people that we care about them, that we value them, that we're going to do the work that's needed, and bring other people along. And it's happened here in the COVID response in Ontario that we've learned a lot from the leadership of these local scale organizations. So that's really inspiring to me. In terms of less helpful behaviors, I think, again, it's that a fear-based approach. And, understandably, there's trauma in healthcare and in public health after years of cuts and so on. But that fear-based approach or traumatized approach or risk-averse approach is not helpful. It doesn't help you get things done. Ducking and covering doesn't help you get things done. You have to show some courage and be willing to have important and sometimes difficult conversations about what's important to you. And so I've learned from the leaders who've done that really well, and struggled with leaders who have tried to kind of dodge or avoid these really important conversations that need to happen, and including in the name of being humble. Like, I think sometimes, again, as Canadians or as people working in not-for-profit or care work, we feel that it's more humble to step out of the way. And I just don't think that's true. And I don't think it's helpful in a moment where what we need are courageous leaders who are willing to stand up, not alone, not in a self-serving way, but in a way that creates the opportunity and act as an icebreaker for other people to show their voices and to get things done. So those are the ones I don't have as much patience for, is when people are struggling to do that.
Those are such great examples. And, as you were talking about the first example of the community organizations, really, once you know your why, you sort of figure out the way. You don't have to have all the resources.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And, I think several of the Ontario health teams are showing that kind of willingness to do that too, and to, let go of old ideas about the other collaborators involved or what the roles are. And that kind of, there's a humility in that that's really refreshing. That willingness to start fresh and figure things out and work together to meet an immediate need it's just so nice to see. And hopefully we can use that same spirit on those tricky, thorny upstream determinants as well, that are less pressing in our immediate lives, but just as important.
So what advice do you have for aspiring leaders who want to be in your shoes one day, who want to be like you one day, Kate?
Yes. Please start taking up space. We really need to hear from you. There's so much you know that I don't, that none of us working in the institutions know, based on your expertise, your experience, your community knowledge, your ideas. And so I would say, don't wait to start sharing your voice. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be awesome.